he was so messed up, and I was seeing him go away before my eyes, and they held me back, and they were like, no, it's too bad, don't let her see. And I said, if I need to say goodbye, I need to say goodbye right now.
First time I jumped on a wake skate and realized it really is like skateboarding. You know, I'm not strapped in, I'm not tied down like wakeboarding as much as I loved wakeboarding. It was just, that was it for me. When I got out of the hospital, it was a discovery process of who is this new person. I really was a new person, and the old me is gone. It's gone and dead, but who this new person is, I like. It's not a bad thing. It's just getting to know him. My name is Matt Manzari, and this story is not about me.
Hey everybody, good to see you. I know you're already like, whoa, this is heavy, and it is, but it's awesome. And you just need to know that the guy that's about to come out here is just a good friend of mine, somebody that I admire a lot. And this whole series has been such a blessing because we've been able to hear the gospel through people's lives. And I think it's so unique, so different, so refreshing, so energizing just to continue to glorify God by allowing people to tell their God story. And this one is incredible. Like, this is a guy that I prayed for so many times, and some of our prayers as a family were literally just about his survival because it was in question for a long time. And just for me, pretty powerful to know that this weekend he's going to be on stage with me sharing his story, because not only did he survive, but God is using him to thrive and to change lives all over the world. So I'm just kind of hyped up right now, but I just hope that we are able to join together with a huge real-life welcome for my man, Matt Manzari. Let's hear it. Matt.
What's up, buddy?
Good to see you, brother.
I am so excited to be here. I just want to start off by saying, you know who you are. So many of you guys have been journeying along with me, praying for me every step of the way, and I can't thank you guys enough. The rest of you, you're wondering why this guy's skin looks like a giant chicken wing. Hold on, we're getting there.
It's, yeah, actually, now, I've got some guys on my preaching team. I'm not going to name names. But when I show them your videos sometimes, you know, of your recent surgery, they can't hang, bro. They're just like, oh, don't make me look at that. So it's pretty gnarly. It's pretty gnarly. And I mean, but some of those preachers are soft. I'm not going to say which campuses. So it's
I mean,
it's
not East Orlando or anything.
Well, actually, right now this is pretty real because, like, I had to make sure I hugged you in the right place because we got a little situation on this shoulder. So what you won't see this weekend is me grabbing Matt right here and going, that's awesome, brother.
Yeah, we just had a surgery about a week and a half ago, still have kind of some open areas, and so if I kind of look a little hunchbacky, that's why.
Yeah, and so how cool is it, though? I mean, how many guest speakers do you have that like, hey, just finished up a surgery in time for church? Let's give it up for my man. Come on. So, well, tell us a little bit about family, like who you are, what you're doing.
So I'm from right here in Claremont. I have an amazing family. I don't know where they're sitting, but they're here tonight. Awesome
do we
wife.
know? Hold on, let's find them in here.
Let's find Bobby Jean.
There's some family.
Oh,
there
right
she
down.
is.
There's my mom.
That's a good seat.
There's my wife, Bobby Jean. I have two incredible kids. I have a 2-year-old Justice and a 5-month-old Trig, who's more of a circle. We gave birth to Santa Claus, so.
Little baby Santa. And God's kind of blessed you now with telling your story. I mean, you're pretty booked up. I was lucky to get you.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see, we're going to get into it, but over the last few years, how God has just kind of allowed our ministry to start taking traction and allowed me to get to travel all over the country and share my story and share what God's been doing in my life. So that's been really cool.
Well, let's go back to sort of the early days, like wake skating. How many of you keep up with action sports like wakeboarding, wake skating, surfing? Anybody? Anybody got some love for being on the
Got
water?
some action sports lovers in here?
I mean, it is Central Florida. That was surprisingly low volume.
Yeah.
You guys really need to get out more. We have lakes, but it's fine. But because that's kind of my passion, growing up in Claremont and just always doing something behind a boat.
Absolutely.
And then I met you through Reed and some other guys, and just how do you get into something like that? You're a pro wake skater.
So I've always been into water sports. My family, we grew up water skiing and then wakeboarding. And my best friend Reed, who you mentioned, we met and we started riding together at a young age. Him, me, my brother, we were out there all the time. And you don't really plan on going pro. A lot of people are like, oh, how do you become a pro athlete? Well, you just love a sport like any other kid, and before you know it, you're getting better and better and better. And I kind of had this turning point when we were almost at this amateur level, or like what you'd consider a college level. And I kind of realized, hey, the difference between an amateur athlete and some of the top athletes in the world is much more mental than physical. And that kind of changed my whole world, my whole view of how I saw any kind of challenge. At that point, I had never lost a loved one or really had any difficult challenges. It was fun ones, reaching my goals. And before I knew it, I started trying tricks that nobody else had done, and he was trying tricks nobody else had done. And we had all these tricks that nobody else could do. And before we knew it, we were traveling the world. We were getting top sponsors. When Nike broke into wake, I was the first wake athlete. And was it that we were better athletes? The answer is no, it's not, because no, you don't have to flatter us because we go to church here. No, we weren't better athletes. We just chose to expect more from ourselves than anyone else ever would. And, it was recognizing that these are the things God has created us to be able to do and seeing beyond what's right in front of us.
Yeah, I love, that's kind of the same thing with me and preaching, Matt. It's, you start off at an amateur level, and it's just like 3 or 4 kids in children's ministry, and then, you get maybe an applause. And then, when I picked up the real life sponsorship, it was huge for me. Really opened up some doors. So, yeah, they keep me busy. But now what's crazy is your story, like to become a pro athlete, especially in wake sports, we were just talking about this, you got that far and you never broke a bone.
Yeah, it was
which
pretty
is really
crazy.
unusual.
Like, people look at me now and they're like, "Oh, you're an accident waiting to happen." But no, I really made it through my whole sports career. Never broke a bone. I got 4 stitches when I was like 12 years old, and that was pretty much my biggest injury. And then, and then I went real big.
Yeah, because you had an accident before this one we're even going to talk about. There's like a pre-accident that really you could have died from that.
Yeah, there's a backstory. Just to give you the timeline, it was 2012. God had kind of made some major changes in my life. And I found myself in this transition where I was kind of in wake skating, trying to dip into full-time ministry, been going to school for theology. And it just felt like I was right where God wanted me. Everything was coming together. I was 3 days before my final exams, about to graduate. I'm going to be in full-time ministry. I'm going to ride the Pro Tour, and what could go wrong? I come down to Florida for the final stop of the Pro Tour, and I end up going into the shoreline, which was covered in rocks and rebar, and we actually have a picture. Now, some of the pictures I'm going to put up are kind of graphic. Too late, but
Yeah,
if you have a weak stomach, you can look away now. But it collapsed
Pastors all over Orlando this weekend are looking away.
Yeah.
On my preaching team, yes, I know that.
It collapsed my skull in 13 different places. My jaw was broken. I had rebar go through the back of my leg. And I thought the God we served, I kind of saw this big picture like, man, I crushed everything above and below my temple. I shouldn't be here. And the doctors told me that. But I didn't know the personal God, the God who wanted to help me right where I was at. Big picture, I was alive and thankful. But when I looked at the mess that was now my life, I could not see a way out. Because I looked at my life and I just said, I can't even walk. I'm in the hospital. How am I going to go back and take my finals? I just lost a semester of school. We're supposed to move out of our apartment at the end of the week. I can't even walk, let alone drive up to Tennessee. And how am I going to support my amazing new wife? And the list just went on and on and on. And over the next few months, it was a slow recovery. And where I saw that I could do nothing, I learned about what Paul was talking about in 2 Corinthians when he's in his struggle and he's praying for God to take it. And he says, but he said to me, my power is made perfect in weakness. And Paul says, therefore, I'll boast all the more gladly about my weakness so that Christ's power may rest on me. When I used to read that verse, I never saw it in this way, but now I saw the weaker and the more vulnerable I was, the more evident it was that this was God doing it.
Yeah.
This wasn't me. And when I came through that challenge, I knew this would be the hardest thing I ever faced, but I'm all in. Like, if we can get through this, I'm good. And 8 months later, I went back to that same contest. I made the finals. Like, I was 100% physically restored, but I was emotionally and spiritually changed forever. And like I said, I thought that was the hardest challenge I'd ever faced, but...
Well, it kind of should have been. I mean, if you
Yeah.
have a near-death or really could have been deadly experience, you overcome that. Usually, if you get any, you get one.
Yeah.
But that was like almost like your pre-exam. If you think about what God was teaching you through that and what you learned and your attitude, because how long was it until...
So it was 2 years later. I had been recovered for a year, starting to move back into ministry, and I was trimming trees at a church in Orlando. And 1 minute I was up in the high reach bucket, and next I was waking up from a coma. And I woke up, you're confused, where am I and what happened? And they said, Matt, you've been electrocuted. And I was shocked. Oh, real cool, make fun of the burn victim.
You can't do that. Yeah, I should have warned you. His sense of humor is just a little bit off. The first Halloween after the accident, he went as an electrician. But anyway, that's...
So
I never heard you say that's really funny.
the power from the power line arced over, and I had over 20,000 volts run through my body. One of the pastors asked, what does that mean? Put that in relatable terms. Well, that's the equivalent of strapping me to 10 electric chairs and turning them all on at the same time. There's no reason that I'm here. And when you're electrocuted, it actually burns you from the inside out. So I had 4th and 5th degree burns, which you don't really hear about very often. That's when it burns through the muscle tissue, and then 5th degree when it actually burns through the bone as well. Melted all the skin off my chest, most of the skin on my arms. Deteriorated my chest muscle. The rest was cut out. It's just, there's nothing under here. It's just bone. Most of this arm muscle was cut out and upper arm here. And my wife, as you saw, was on the scene. And I just think about what that was like. I kind of wanted to journey through that, for her to be in that same ambulance, headed to the same hospital.
After already being through all that with you the first time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm guessing she's not thinking you're going to make that.
No, I mean, the EMTs actually have her say goodbye and basically tell her, I'm not going to make it to the hospital. And then when I do make it to the hospital, they bring me back for surgery. They say, we should know soon if he's going to somehow live. And pretty early on, it's clear that I'm not coming out soon. 6-7 hours goes by, I'm still in surgery. And then I'm induced into a coma. And over the next few days, we see that the electricity actually flowed in my arms. I had headphones on. It went down my headphone wire, melted my iPhone to my leg. came up the headphone wires. The earbuds blew up in my ears, and it burned over this bolt here that rebuilt my jaw, burned here, and then exited through the top of my head. So
Because you had the plates in your face.
Yeah, these are plates and screws here that were attracting the electricity. And they said all of that voltage exited the top of his brain. You need to understand now that if he somehow lives, if he somehow wakes up, he is a vegetable. Like the brain damage is severe. That's a given. And now when I play with our almost 2-year-old, my wife might say I was not too far off.
I mean, you're a guy.
Yeah.
You're a little slow and unresponsive at times, but that's just a male thing, I think.
Yeah. And luckily, my beautiful hair flows in this direction and covers my bald spot up right here.
It is I do have to say, I mean, I don't usually tell a man that he looks good, but in your situation, it's just not how I roll, okay? I just don't say it. I should say it more often. I just don't. I hold it in. Maybe I'm jealous.
Best-looking chicken wing you know?
But you if somebody just met you, let's say you got long sleeves on, because that's sort of a giveaway there. But like your face, I mean, you can't even imagine that you've been through all that. Like I'm trying to figure out how, and I know we've talked about this, but how God saved you and restored you, and walk me through this whole process. Because how many surgeries now?
So I've had 25 surgeries now. But what's interesting is a lot of times I get doctors. It's really hard to get doctors to work together. But I've been under so many times that while they have me under, I do multiple surgeries at once. So I don't even know how I'm doing 2 or 3 surgeries every time I go under. So
change the oil while it's in the garage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've been under 25 times, but probably 70 surgeries, 50 surgeries, something like that.
Yeah. And okay, so the first time you're in there, your wife's there, which is just horrific to imagine, and there's such a strong chance you're not going to make it. And how long are you in a coma? When do you come out?
So I was in a coma for I think 2 or 3 days, and then they induced me for another 2. And it was kind of crazy because like I said, my family was such a big part of this journey, and my dad was there the first time I opened my eyes. And at that time, he tells the story of how he's in the room and I opened my eyes, and he said, when I looked at him, I'm strapped, I can't move my arms, I can't move my head. And when my eyes opened, he said, I looked at him and he saw me. And he said there was this rejoicing moment, but followed by a little bit of this fear of, I know that's my son, he's in there. Like, I don't care what these doctors say, my son is in there. But then walking to that waiting room and saying, hey, Matt's going to be okay. If he lives, his mind is okay, and possibly giving false hope.
Yeah. But he had that faith.
Yeah.
He saw you. I know people praying everywhere. I remember like how many people you could see you following it online. You know, our thing was we were just praying for Miracle Matt. We were believing you were going to pull through, and we were on vacation at the time. I just remember, and that was like our daily prayer as a family. But could you feel those prayers somehow?
Yeah, I get pretty emotional, so I try not to bring it up too much. But it's pretty overwhelming to think how many people out there were praying for me, and God heard those prayers. I mean, one example is my dad was overseas when he got the call. My mom was here in Florida. He was overseas working, and the hotel he was at, he didn't go back there for over a year later. And as soon as he went back and checked in, the manager came running out and said, Mr. Manzari, how is your son? Since the day you left, we meet all of the hotel staff every morning and pray, hoping he's alive and doing well. And
that's so cool.
When I hear stories like that, I'm just...
There was a thing, you were supposed to lose your arms in this. Whenever they figured out you were going to survive, I mean, your arms were pretty much gone.
Yeah, there was a point, my arms didn't have any circulation. They were turning black. They were dying, and it finally came to that point where they said, it's not worth trying to hang on anymore. His arms are killing him, and it's not really the family's decision at this point. They're going to come off tomorrow. And they were going to take both my arms at the shoulders. And another situation, my dad was in the room that day, and he said he went to hold my hand, and my mom said no, because we can't touch him. And I was in this ICU, and he said that night, when Dr. Smith started talking, okay, it's time to take his arms off, he said, if that was the last moment to hold my son's hand and I missed it, and I wasn't ready to accept that. And then my family started fighting for me, is there anything we can do? And I love to mention his name on stage, Dr. Llewellyn, because I owe that man my life. He came in the middle of the night and said, if they're coming off, let's try this. And he did really deep fasciotomy where he makes really deep cuts up and down my arms. And as I bled out of my arms, they pumped new blood in, and it broke through the blood clots, relieved the swelling, and brought life back. And what was so amazing was a few months out of the hospital, I went back just for a minor surgery. He was going to put a pin through my finger that was kind of growing crooked now. And I was in his office describing what was happening and what was happening with my finger and why we needed to do surgery and what his thoughts were. And he just kind of stopped me and he said, Matt, I have to stop you. He said, I'm the guy they call in as a last resort. I know the muscles in the arm. I know how it works. He goes, when I was saving your arms that night, I was saving them how we save someone's legs in a wheelchair. He goes, I can't even focus watching you move your arms like this because I cannot believe the function and the use you have.
How cool is that? That just gets me excited. Like, and then what did that doctor say when you went snowboarding the next year? Let's hear it for his wife. Come on. This, Bobby. Oh, I was in the, maybe we shouldn't snowboard yet. I was in that group. There was a group of us. And then, like, I gotta live. I'm alive. And he kind of still pushes it. Actually, we were making plans. We were praying and talking in the office. And he's like, man, I can't wait till I get over this surgery and we can kind of get behind the boat again. It's like, okay, no, just, you drive. I said, can you drive, I'll ride. But
you did.
All right, so your parents, I mean, I can't imagine what they're going through. And then, like, when you wake up and somebody has to tell you what happened to you, like, what's going through your mind?
Well, it's funny, the first month was kind of a blur to me because you're heavily medicated. Just to kind of take you through what that was like, one of the first memories I have is I wake up and I'm in this room and there's lots of people in the room and then there's just one person, there's a doctor. And he says, Matt, we usually don't tell people this, but I want to shoot you straight because we have people dying here every day. And lots of times they have a phone call. They have somebody they wanted to tell something to. They have a living will they need to set in place. He goes, you've been electrocuted, and it's not really if, but when you die, and it's kind of a game of numbers because you don't have any skin on your chest and arms, and the rate of infection is so high, it's probably going to happen at some point. He said, I'm not trying to scare you, but if you have a living will you have to set in place, if you have anything to tell your wife or your parents or your family or loved ones, you need to do that. And I just thought, have you ever considered switching to counseling? Like, your people skills are just... No, but being told you're dying wasn't really how I pictured because I was at peace. And it wasn't this fake, I'm going to be strong for my family. It wasn't that. It was total assurance. It was knowing from that first accident that the God we serve says, hey, in this world you will have troubles, but take heart, I've overcome the world. And it was knowing that even if I die, I will see my family again. And we serve a God who's done everything, so how could I ask him for anything? And I was at peace.
That's pretty powerful. I mean, that's where we all want to be, and we all want to get to this place. But to actually be in that moment and to know. I guess that old thing was you don't really know if your anchor holds unless there's a storm, right? And then you're in it, and you like that assurance. Because at this point, you're kind of invincible. I mean, maybe not physically. We'll see after your snowboard trip this week.
I don't feel invincible. I feel like I'm 70.
There's some 70-year-olds in here going, oh, yeah, buddy?
Oh, yeah, I could take it. Yeah, there's probably some 70-year-olds in here in much better shape than I am.
Yeah, well, there's Jack's doing pretty good, actually. Yeah. That's one of my heroes right there, Jack Gorey. But he's older than 70. Don't tell him I told you. Anyway, all right, so with everything that you've been through, I think there's so many aspects to this story because I think about the obvious miracle. Like there's this clear you shouldn't be alive thing, this thread that God decided, no, you are going to be alive. And you're going to be alive for a purpose and for a reason and for my glory. And I'm going to restore and I'm going to redeem and I'm going to repair things that shouldn't be repaired. And I'm going to cause doctors to even go, there must be somebody looking out for you because you shouldn't be here. And that's such a powerful part of this. But what are some other ways that you've seen God work through this?
It's pretty incredible. I mean, just in the hospital, right off the bat, I was able to pray with other patients and encourage them and see and access to this world that I've never had a place. A lot of patients get so defensive of, you don't know what I'm going through, but to be able to say, I know exactly what you're going through. I might die next week too. We're in the same boat, but this is the hope we can hold on to. And one of the most meaningful ones that I saw was right when I was being checked out. We'd gone months in the hospital, and this nurse came up to me, who I'm still friends with today, and she said, Matt, when you came in here, everybody in the medical staff knew we were just keeping you comfortable till you died. There wasn't really a chance. And in those first surgeries, when you'd say, hey, I'm not pushing anything on you, can I just pray over the room? Can I pray over the surgery? That's kind of typical. But then when a month went by, and then another month, and you're still doing that, and you're in incredible amounts of pain every day, it got me thinking, this isn't somebody just trying to be strong or holding to something. There's something real here. And she said, I want to know that. I want to know Jesus. Like, share Jesus with me, because what you have is real, and I've never believed it, but I believe it now. And for me, when she told me that story, it was worth it. Everything was worth it just for that one life. And now to be able to go around and share my story, like, God is so good, and he keeps working, and he keeps turning obstacles and opportunities and turning my suffering into his ministry.
So cool. And shouldn't that be the same thing for all of us? I mean, I just think about how we want people to see Christ through us. And sometimes we miss those opportunities. It's just the way we display patience when we shouldn't, or joy in the midst of suffering, and that she knew it was real. That just gets me excited that she saw Christ in you. And it wasn't just that you survived, but it was your attitude and your... Let's talk a little bit about what it was like in the hospital, too, just to give some context, what she was seeing, because I know you had some pictures.
Yeah, we have...
Should we actually show those?
So before you put them up...
Another warning.
Some of these are kind of graphic, but we just have a few pictures that can kind of help journey through. So the first picture is actually when I was still in the coma, and they were just sure, this guy's done. You can see my head is swollen like a circle, and I have wound vacs on, and it was just a mess. Now, the next picture is actually maybe a month in, and that was a big milestone, because that's actually, that stuff that looks like plastic on me is Integra, and that was the first time we tried to cover up everything. Before that, you could see my rib cage, you could see my sternum, you could see my clavicle. You can still see my sternum there. We had to cut some of that bone out before we could Integra it.
You're not going to show any pictures of your actual sternum.
Well, that's it. That black is burnt
but
bone.
like without the...
No.
Like, okay, good. Just want to make sure, because... I can handle it.
And then this next picture is not there, so we'll skip that one. But this one is really cool. This is a special picture to me. That was the first time I went outside, and that was an emotional moment, because we don't realize what we take for granted. And when you're in that hospital room, it's a prison. Those four walls, that's all you know. That's your everyday. And after so much time, the smallest things mean so much. And when my wife, my physical therapist, said, hey, we're still not supposed to take you outside, but we're going to take you outside today. It's going to be quick. It was like this fun mission. But then as soon as that wheelchair went outside, the whole top of my body couldn't really feel anything. But I'll never forget, the wind came in through the left and just blew through, and I felt it on my legs, and I just instantly burst into tears, because you take that for granted. You forget what it feels like to be outside. You forget what it feels like to hug somebody. The first time I hugged somebody and didn't feel like this machine that was being operated on. And kind of my world, like I said in the hospital, your world's those four walls. And early on, what helped me was realizing wherever you are, there you are. And as simple as that was, that statement was huge for me because I realized I could be a miserable, bitter, defeated person, and it wasn't going to make me any less electrocuted. Or I could wake up every day, hold to my faith, and pour into my loved ones, and if I die, okay, I'm remembered for who I was, and I made an impact right to the end and fought the good fight. I don't know.
I'd say that's worth an amen. I'll throw one out there. Just speaking as a guy who sometimes gets mad when like the Netflix won't load. You guys know what I'm saying? And it just keeps spinning and you're like, come on. And anyway,
Real life struggles.
Just trying to build a bridge, between our stories. Struggle's real. But I was making a point there. That was ridiculous. But you think about how if you can glorify God with so much, sometimes we miss that boat with so little. There's really, to have that perspective, to have that understanding, to not miss the little gifts that God's giving us along the way. That's a huge thing. Just not to take stuff for granted, to appreciate Him. What would you say kept your faith in check through this whole thing? Big picture.
So big picture, that's funny. I actually have a story about my son Justice. So big picture, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this take place, but I was in the kitchen one day, and my son Justice sitting there. He's got his binky in his mouth or pacifier, and if you've never seen a binky fall out of a baby's mouth, it is life-changing. This little guy's whole universe ends. And judging by his facial expression, if he could talk, I think he'd say, why am I here? The world, my lifeline, it's gone.
Over.
And we as parents, we look down like, little dude, it's not gone forever. It's clipped to your shirt, bro. It's right, take it down 10,000 notches. But then we get a little bit older and we get our heart broken for the first time.
Back in the day, though, we didn't have the clip-ons that.
That's
some of us were parenting when you'd have to boil that thing and put it back in. That's your first child. By your second, third child, you're just like, put it back in. It's okay. By your fourth child, just get down there and get it yourself. But go ahead.
So, Justin. So, you get a little older, and your heart gets broken, your parents move away, and once again, your world ends. It's a little longer in the binky issue, but a few weeks later, you're like, maybe I was dramatic, maybe it's fine. But then we grow up, and we forget we're like that. And we lose a loved one, or we're burnt, and we're like, God, how could you do this? My life is over, my world is over. And I pictured him looking down like, little dude, it's not over. It's clipped to your shirt. We've overcome the binky issue. What is 50 or 60 years in a burnt, broken body when you can use it for me and have a lifetime in a perfect one? Eternity.
Yeah. God's
overcome the grave. He's overcome our binky. Whatever your binky is, He's overcome it.
That's actually a really good analogy, and now we'll all see ourselves as big, crying, whining babies.
Yeah.
Whenever the Netflix won't load. Come on. All right. Hey, did you ever question God? I just got to ask you that because, I just think for a lot of us, the why question comes up. And I've been in some situations, I never thought I would, but my daughter went through surgery, and it's just why? That question comes up. I'm just wondering, did you ever question God?
And it's a normal question. I've gotten it from all different forms, unbelievers, believers. You didn't deserve this. Is this fair? And actually, in my search to dive deeper into this answer, I've determined that we serve an unfair God. And hold on. Don't throw me off stage.
Preacher.
Let's talk about fair. Let's talk about what's deserved. Well, the wages of sin is death, and who have sinned all. So what's fair is we're not having this conversation. What's fair is we don't deserve the lives we live that were a gift. why is it that there's not even a statistic for the electrocution that I survived? Why, when the best doctors said not if, but when these kidneys fail, not is there heart damage, how bad is it? Sure, the brain damage was severe. Sure, my arms were coming off. Sure, they were keeping me comfortable until I died. Why were the best doctors wrong again and again and again? Why? Because we serve an unfair God who's crazy about you, and for whatever reason, it's not merited, but he steps in this world and says, this is still my world, these are still my people, and I'm still their God. That's the God we serve.
You're so right, man. Grace isn't fair, right?
No, it's not. It's a God who doesn't want to see you or I broken by our challenges, but he's given us everything to carry through in his word, to turn our obstacles into opportunities, to turn our misery into his ministry.
Boom. I mean, I would say mic drop, but we got these headsets on. You have to like take it off and then throw it down, which would be kind of anticlimactic. But, all right, things you want to leave us with, because we're kind of running out of time.
Yeah.
Feels like we just got started.
Yeah, it went by pretty quick. If I could leave you with one thing, I've shared about my family being a big part of my journey. I do want to put a picture up of my dad and I, because I love that guy. It's a picture of my dad, kind of a fun picture. And then there's one more picture, now that I'm a dad, and if you can leave this one up, of my son and I. This is Justice and I.
Oh, man.
When I look at that innocent little face and my son, I cannot imagine what it was like for my dad to sit there and watch me lay there with no skin, fighting in pain and suffering every day. But how much harder would it have been for him to watch as I'm dragged downtown, whipped and beaten and ridiculed by the people I love, and then watch and stand by while they drive nails through my hands and feet for no other reason than he's crazy about you, no other reason than he wants to have a relationship with you. Look, I don't know what your challenge is. I don't know what your struggles are, but we all have them. I wear mine on my arms for the whole world to see, but some of the deepest ones are what's unseen. Wherever you're at, we can't always choose that challenge. We can't always choose that situation, but we can always choose to lay our challenge at his feet and cling to him and persevere.
That's powerful. Any last encouragement before we pray? I mean, we got a lot on the table here.
I mean, we could just end with the gospel, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. That's Matt's new quote. He's like, how should I end? He goes, you should probably just end with the gospel, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's always a good, so that's my new line as a preacher. End with the gospel, I guess, you know? God's crazy about you. He sent his one and only son, and I mean, we just can't deny it, right?
Yeah.
And we look at your life and we just see that analogy. You know, you see how your dad was at your side, and we think about how our Heavenly Father right now is at our side. And it's not to take away all the pain now, but that he'll never leave us or forsake us.
Yeah.
That he'll always have our hand. And the point is, whatever we go through, like you said, in this world we will have trouble. Jesus promised those troubles, but he also promised that he'd overcome the world. And that's where we're heading. That's what we're hanging on for. And I just think if anybody came in here with no hope or little hope, I'm praying that you have a little more than you came in with. You know, I think your story and your life and what God's has done in and through you, that gives me hope. That gives me strength. It gives me motivation and inspiration. You guys? Amen. So, my brother, thanks a lot for sharing with us. Love you a lot.
Love you too.
Let's just close in prayer right now. Thank you, God, for what you are doing in and through Matt. I just want to personally, as his friend, thank you for saving him, because he really shouldn't be here. And I just think about like how he's come back essentially from the grave just to tell us that you're awesome. And God, I don't know that anything could be more glorifying to you than that you have this one. You have this one who, despite everything he's gone through and the pain he still lives with and the recent surgeries, he still just wants to tell everybody how awesome you are. I pray that you're receiving glory for this. I pray for the rest of us, too, that we would grab a hold of this message of truth, this message of hope. I pray for those who are far from you that would just say, I need that, because I'm trying to make it on my own, and I'm struggling, and I'm finding my way in the dark. I need what Matt has. and that they would come and open their heart and they would find you, Lord. That's our prayer. So as you've been lifted up tonight, I pray that you would draw all people to yourself, Lord, for your glory, for our good. And just thank you for this church. I love that we're a part of a church for real people. And so I know there's some broken people this weekend at Real Life. And I'm just praying that they would come to you for the healing and the hope that they need, because you will never disappoint us. Those who put their hope in the Lord will not be put to shame. And we thank you for that truth, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you guys. Let's hear it from Matt.
Thank you, guys.